The rain doesn't stop. It's been 3 days of this relentless drumming against the windows, the roof, the deck out back. The forecast promised a break by today, but I've stopped believing in promises. The weather app on my phone sits untouched, just like the dating app Laura insisted I download. Just like the divorce papers in the drawer that I finally signed last month. Just like most things in this house. I stand at the kitchen sink, staring at nothing. The dishwasher broke 2 weeks ago. Another thing I should address, but haven't. The silence of the house presses against my ears except for the rain and the quiet ticking of the wall clock Mark's mother gave us for our 5th anniversary. I couldn't bring myself to take it down. 8 years of watching it mark time in this kitchen, and now it's measuring out the empty hours of my new life. My fingers are pruned from the dishwater. I realize I've been washing the same plate for several minutes, moving the sponge in mechanical circles. The water has gone cold. I set the plate on the drying rack and pull the plug, watching the water spiral down, carrying away soap bubbles and loose strands of my hair. 41 and already finding gray at my temples. Mark never saw them. He was gone before they appeared. I wonder if they would have bothered him. I wonder if anything about me registered with him those last few years, or if I had already become a ghost in our marriage, someone who moved through rooms and prepared meals and spoke words that disappeared into the air unheard. The house is too big now. We bought it anticipating children, the bedrooms upstairs, the yard with space for a swing set. My body had other plans. 3 miscarriages later, we adopted Ethan when he was 13, already formed in his ways, already wary of attachment. He came to us with his own history of loss, and for a while, we were a triad of broken pieces trying to form something whole. Mark found wholeness elsewhere. With his administrative assistant, such a cliché, I almost laughed when he told me. Almost. Instead, I sat very still at our kitchen table and felt something inside me fold in on itself, origami style, until it was so small and dense I could barely breathe around it. I dry my hands on the dish towel and notice there's a small cut on my index finger. I don't remember cutting it. I don't remember a lot of things lately. Time slips. Hours disappear. I'll be standing at the window watching the rain, and suddenly it's dark outside, and I haven't moved. Tonight, the house feels particularly empty. Ethan is in his 3rd year at State, only an hour away, but might as well be across the ocean. He comes home some weekends, but less, and less often. He has a life there, classes and friends, and a part-time job at the campus bookstore. Last time he visited, I could see him looking around the house with a kind of detached curiosity, as if revisiting a place from childhood rather than his home. I pour myself a glass of red wine, the 3rd of the evening. I'm not normally much of a drinker, but lately the wine helps to soften the edges of the silence. I'm careful. I'm always careful. One more glass, and then I'll go upstairs and take a bath and read until I fall asleep. This is my routine now. This is how I get through. I carry the wine into the living room, where the reading lamp casts a small pool of warm light in the otherwise dark house. I've stopped turning on all the lights. What's the point of illuminating empty rooms? I settle into the corner of the sofa, tucking my feet under me, and take a sip. The wine is nothing special, something on sale at the grocery store, but it warms my throat going down. There's a book on the coffee table, bookmark stuck about a third of the way through. I've been reading the same page for days. The words don't stick. They slide off my brain like the raindrops on the windows, leaving no trace. The thing about divorce is how it unmakes you. Marriage builds a structure of identity over the years. Wife, partner, one half of something. And then suddenly, those beams are pulled away, and you're left standing in an empty space that used to be a life. I'm finding it hard to remember I was before Mark. 27 when we met. Already established in my career as a speech pathologist. Confident and self-sufficient. Where did that woman go? The wine glass is empty. I set it down too hard on the coffee table, and the sound is jarring in the quiet house. Something breaks loose. Inside me then. Some dam I've been carefully maintaining for months. My throat tightens, and tears spring to my eyes with such force it's almost a physical pain. I don't fight it. There's no one here to see, no one to make uncomfortable with the spectacle of a middle-aged woman falling apart on her sofa on a rainy Tuesday night. I let the sobs come, harsh and ragged, tearing up from some deep place. I haven't cried like this since the day Mark left. I've been too busy being competent, showing everyone, including myself, that I was handling it all just fine. But I'm not fine. The truth crashes over me like a wave. I am desperately, achingly lonely. I miss being touched. I miss conversation over dinner. I miss the weight of another person in the bed. I even miss the irritations. Mark's habit of leaving cabinet doors open, the way he'd fall asleep during movies, his terrible singing in the shower. The absence of those small human frictions has left my life smooth and featureless, like a stone worn down by water. I pull my knees to my chest and press my face against them, trying to muffle the sounds coming out of me. My whole body shakes with it. Once started, I can't seem to stop. Years of held-back tears, maybe. Years of being the stable one, the reliable one, the one who kept it all going while Mark slowly disappeared into his work, into his distractions, into his separate life. I don't hear the front door open, don't register the sound of footsteps in the hallway. It's only when a shadow falls across me that I jerk my head up, startled and mortified. Ethan stands in the doorway to the living room, rain-damp and tall, a backpack slung over one shoulder. His dark hair is longer than when I last saw him, curling slightly at the ends. His eyes, so like Mark's, it sometimes hurts to look at him, are wide with surprise. "Ethan?" I gasp, hurriedly wiping at my face, trying to compose myself. "I didn't know you were coming home this weekend." He doesn't speak for a moment, just looks at me with a strange, still intensity that makes me want to turn away, to hide. I must look terrible. Face blotchy, eyes swollen, hair a mess. I haven't bothered with makeup in days. "I texted you," he says finally, his voice quiet. "This morning. I remember now. The notification I glanced at and meant to answer, then forgot in the fog that seems to cloud my brain lately. Sorry, I didn't." I trail off, unable to find an explanation that doesn't sound pathetic. I expect him to shift uncomfortably, to mumble something and retreat to his room upstairs. That's what would have happened before. Emotions carefully sidestepped, messy moments gracefully avoided. The unspoken rule in our house, even before the divorce. Don't dwell on the difficult things. But he doesn't move. Instead, he sets his backpack down slowly and takes a step into the room. His face in the dim light is different than I remember. More angular, more defined. There's a maturity there that wasn't present even a few months ago. He's only 20, but something in his eyes looks older. "Don't stop on my account," he says, and his voice is gentle in a way I've rarely heard from him. I let out a choked laugh. "What, crying?" "I think I'm done." I reach for a tissue from the box on the end table, trying to gather myself. The shame is acute. To be caught like this, so undone, so pathetic. Ethan moves farther into the room, stopping a few feet from the sofa. "Are you okay?" he asks, and there's no awkwardness in the question, just genuine concern. "I'm fine," I say automatically, the response worn smooth from repetition. "Just having a moment. You know how it is." I try for a smile, but my face feels stiff and uncooperative. He doesn't smile back. Instead, he regards me with a steady gaze that sees too much. "No, you're not," he says simply. The directness of it knocks the breath from me. No one has challenged my fine in months. Not my friends, who have slowly stopped calling as often. Not my sister, who lives across the country and has her own life to manage. Not my colleagues, who walk carefully around the fact of my divorce, as if it might be contagious. Fresh, tears well up, and I press the tissue against my eyes. "No," I admit, my voice barely audible. "I'm not." Instead of retreating from this confession, Ethan moves closer. He sits down on the other end of the sofa, his movements deliberate, as if approaching a wounded animal. There's no discomfort in his posture, no eagerness to escape. He simply sits, a solid presence in the dim room. "Do you want to talk about it?" he asks. The question undoes me again. So simple, so direct. When was the last time anyone really wanted to hear what was happening inside me? Not the sanitized version, not the "oh, I'm getting through it" version, but the raw, ugly truth. "I don't know if I can," I whisper. He nods, accepting this. Then, without a word, he gets up and walks to the kitchen. I hear the sound of the kettle being filled, the click of the stove being turned on. The domestic sounds are so ordinary, so normal, that they break my heart all over again. I haven't cooked a proper meal in weeks, haven't bothered with tea or coffee, just wine and whatever I can eat quickly, standing at the counter. While the water heats, he returns to the living room and switches on another lamp, casting the room in a warmer glow. He doesn't look at my tear-stained face or comment on the empty wine glass. Instead, he moves around the room with quiet purpose, picking up a throw blanket from the chair and bringing it to me. "Here," he says, holding it out. "You're shivering." I haven't noticed the chill in my hot body until he mentions it. I take the blanket, our fingers brushing briefly in the exchange. Human contact, even something so small, sends a jolt through me. "How long has it been since I've been touched?" "Thank you," I say, wrapping the blanket around my shoulders. The kettle whistles, and he returns. To the kitchen. More sounds. Mugs on the counter, the pantry door opening and closing. He comes back carrying 2 steaming mugs and sets one on the coffee table in front of me. "You still drink chamomile, right?" he asks. The fact that he knows this small detail of my preferences, brings a fresh lump to my throat. "Yes," I say, reaching for the mug. The warmth seeps into my palms, steadying. Ethan sits again, cradling his own mug. He's chosen the chair across from the sofa this time, angled toward me. The rain continues its gentle assault on the windows, creating a cocoon of sound around us. "I'm sorry," I say after a long moment. "This isn't what you came home to deal with." His mouth quirks slightly, not quite a smile. "You're not something to deal with, Claire." The use of my first name startles me. Since when has he stopped calling me by the more formal mom that we settled into when he first came to live with us? It wasn't quite right. I was only 11 years older than him, hardly old enough to be his biological mother. But it was the role I had taken on. The role I had wanted, desperately. "I just mean, you probably wanted to come home to a normal weekend, not this." I gesture vaguely at myself, at the evidence of my breakdown. He takes a sip of his tea before answering. "Normal doesn't seem to be working out too well for either of us lately." There's something in his tone, a heaviness that makes me really look at him for the first time since he walked in. Beyond the physical changes, there's a weariness in his face I hadn't noticed before. Dark circles under his eyes, a tightness around his mouth. "What does that mean?" I ask carefully. He shrugs, looking down into his mug. "Just that? I don't know. Life isn't exactly going according to plan." The adult complexity in his voice catches me off guard. When did my awkward stepson become this composed young man? When did he start carrying his own burdens with such quiet dignity? "Tell me," I say, and I mean it. I want to know. I want to focus on something outside the vacuum of my own pain. He hesitates, then sets his mug down. "I dropped out of the pre-med program," he says, the words coming out in a rush. "Last month." I blink, processing this. Ethan had been so determined to become a doctor. It was his plan since before he came to live with us. His biological mother had died of cancer when he was 12, and he had decided then that he would help others facing the same disease. "Why?" I ask, with no judgment in my voice, just genuine curiosity. He runs a hand through his damp hair, a gesture so like his father it makes my chest ache. "Because I was failing. Because I was miserable. Because I would sit in organic chemistry and feel like I couldn't breathe. He looks up at me, a challenge in his eyes. Because it turns out it was never really my dream. It was just something I thought I should do. I nod slowly. I understand that feeling. Do you? He asks. And there's a genuine question there, not accusation. I take a sip of tea, gathering my thoughts. Yes, I think. I think I've been living a life I thought I should want for a long time. The perfect house, the successful husband, the family we tried to build. And when it all fell apart, I realized I'd lost track of what I actually wanted along the way. The words surprise me as they come out. I haven't articulated this thought before, not even to myself. But as soon as I say it, I know it's true. I'd slipped into a role: supportive wife, aspiring mother, suburban homeowner, without questioning if it truly fit. Ethan is watching me intently, as if seeing me for the first time. What do you want then? He asks quietly. The question hangs in the air between us. What do I want? The simplicity of it is devastating. No one has asked me that in years. Not Mark, who had stopped seeing me long before he physically left. Not my friends, who expected me to want the same things they did. Not even myself, in the quiet hours of the night when sleep wouldn't come. I don't know anymore, I whisper, and the admission feels like stepping off a cliff. I used to know, before the miscarriages, before the adoption process, before everything started to unravel with your dad. I used to write, "Did you know that?" Poetry mostly. Nothing published, just for myself. I haven't written a word in 8 years. Ethan's eyebrows lift slightly. I didn't know that. There's a lot we don't know about each other, I say, and there's regret in my voice. For all our years under the same roof, for all my attempts at mothering him, we had maintained a careful distance, both of us too wounded, perhaps, to risk true closeness. We could change that, he says, with a directness that takes my breath away. I look at him, really look at him, and for the first time, I see not the boy we adopted, not Mark's son, not the sullen teenager who kept his door closed and his feelings hidden, but a young man with his own complexity, his own struggles, a person separate from the roles we've assigned each other. Ah, I'd like that, I say softly. He nods, a small smile touching his lips. Then he glances at the empty wineglass on the table. Dinner? He asks. I'm starving, and I'm guessing you haven't eaten. The simple practicality of the question makes me laugh, a genuine sound that surprises both of us. I haven't, I admit. There's not much in the fridge, I'm afraid. Pizza, then? He suggests, already reaching for his phone. The usual. The usual. Such ordinary words, but they wrap around me like an embrace. There are things he knows about me, after all. Small things, accumulated over years of shared meals and quiet evenings. Mushroom and spinach, light on the cheese. My preference that he remembers. That sounds perfect, I say. While he places the order, I excuse myself to the bathroom. The face in the mirror is startling. Eyes red-rimmed and swollen, skin blotchy, hair tangled around my shoulders. I splash cold water on my face and run a brush through my hair, not out of vanity, but out of a sudden desire to feel more human, more present in my own skin. When I return to the living room, Ethan has turned on the small lamp by the bookshelf, adding another pool of warm light to the room. He's built a fire in the fireplace, something I haven't bothered to do all winter, despite the damp chill that pervades the house. The flames cast flickering shadows on the walls. Better? He asks as I sit back down on the sofa. I nod, pulling the blanket around me again. Thank you for all of this. He shrugs, but I can see he's pleased. It's nothing. It's not nothing, I say firmly. I can't remember the last time someone saw me like that. Really saw me. His expression turns serious. That's the problem, isn't it? No one really sees anyone anymore. We're all just performing for each other. The insight strikes me as profound coming from someone his age. When did you get so wise? I ask, only half joking. He gives a short laugh, but there's little humor in it. Not wisdom, just observation. He pauses, staring into the fire. And experience, I guess. There's something in his voice, a rawness that echoes my own pain. I wait, giving him space to continue if he wants to. After a long moment, he speaks again, still looking at the flames. I've been having panic attacks, he says, the words coming out measured and even. Since last semester, that's part of why I dropped pre-med. I couldn't sit through lectures anymore, couldn't take exams. I'd feel like I was dying. My heart constricts. Ethan, I had no idea. He shrugs one shoulder. I didn't tell anyone, not until now. The trust implicit in this confession humbles me. Why me? I ask, softly. Why tell me? Now he does look at me, his eyes reflecting the firelight. Because you weren't hiding tonight. Because you let me see you, really see you. His voice drops almost to a whisper. And it made me feel less alone. The words hang in the air between us, weighted with meaning. Something shifts in that moment, subtle but seismic. A reordering of how we see each other. The carefully maintained roles of stepmother and stepson giving way to something else, something more honest, more equal. Two people recognizing their shared humanity in the most fundamental way. I don't know what to say, how to acknowledge the significance of what's happening, but Ethan saves me from having to find words. The pizza will be here in 20 minutes, he says, breaking the intensity of the moment. Want to watch something mindless until then? I smile, grateful for the respite. That sounds perfect. He finds the remote and turns on the TV, flipping through channels until he lands on an old sitcom, one we used to watch together during those early awkward months after he came to live with us. We sit in companionable silence, the familiar dialogue washing over us. But something has changed. The air in the room feels different, charged with possibility. For the first time in months, maybe years, I feel truly seen. And in seeing Ethan, in recognizing his pain, his struggles, I've stepped outside the prison of my own isolation. I don't know what happens next, how this new understanding between us will unfold. All I know is that tonight, a door has opened, and neither of us, I think, will be able to close it again. I wake to unfamiliar sounds, movement in the kitchen, the quiet clink of dishes, the coffee maker's gentle hum. For a moment, still caught in the haze, between sleeping and waking, I think Mark has come back. Then reality settles around me like dust. The events of last night filter back, my breakdown, Ethan's unexpected arrival, the hours we spent talking as the rain drummed against the windows. I lie still, listening to the domestic sounds drifting up from downstairs. We had stayed up late, moving from stilted conversation to something deeper, more honest. The pizza box sat empty on the coffee table as we talked about things we'd never discussed before. His anxiety about school, my loneliness since the divorce, memories of the early days when he first came to live with us. At some point, exhaustion had claimed me, and I vaguely recall Ethan draping another blanket over me on the couch before I drifted off. Now, in the cold light of morning, doubt creeps in. I feel exposed, raw. What must he think of me? His stepmother, the woman who was supposed to provide stability, falling apart on the living room couch. I press my hands to my face, embarrassment washing over me in waves. I've burdened him with my problems, when he has his own struggles to navigate. He's only 20. It isn't his job to comfort me. The clock on the nightstand reads 9:17. I can't remember the last time I slept past 7. The house is quiet except for the occasional sound from the kitchen and the persistent patter of rain outside. The storm hasn't let up. Eventually, I force myself to get up. I change into fresh clothes, jeans and a sweater, nothing special, but it feels important somehow to look put together today. I brush my teeth, splash water on my face, run a comb through my hair. The woman in the mirror looks tired, but oddly more present than she has in months. The fog that surrounded me seems to have thinned, just slightly. I hesitate, At the top of the stairs, unsure what awaits me. Will there be awkwardness? Will Ethan regret his openness last night? Will he retreat back into the polite distance we've maintained for years? When I finally make my way downstairs, I find him at the kitchen counter, his back to me, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. He's wearing the same clothes as yesterday, his dark hair slightly rumpled from sleep. He must have spent the night on the recliner in the living room. "Morning," I say, my voice still rough with sleep. He turns, and for a moment, there's a flicker of something like uncertainty in his eyes. Then he offers a small smile. "Hey, coffee?" "Please," I say, grateful for the ordinary exchange. I slide onto one of the stools at the kitchen island as he pushes a mug toward me. "You didn't have to do this." He shrugs. "I was up. Figured you could use it." I wrap my hands around the warm mug, letting the heat seep into my palms. "Thank you." I take a sip. It's exactly how I like it. A splash of milk, no sugar. Another small detail he's filed away over the years. "Did you sleep okay?" he asks, leaning against the counter with his own mug. "Better than I have in a while, actually," I admit. It's true. Despite everything, I'd slept deeply, without the restless tossing that's become my nightly companion. He nods, looking down into his coffee. "Good." A pause, then. "I was thinking about making some breakfast." "If you're hungry." The simple offer brings an unexpected lump to my sour throat. When was the last time someone cooked for me? "That would be nice," I manage. We move around each other in the kitchen with a tentative choreography. He finds a pan for the eggs while I toast bread. I reach for plates as he grates cheese for the omelets. There's something soothing about the mundane task, about sharing space without pressure to fill it with words. "I hope I didn't dump too much on you last night," I say finally, as he slides an omelet onto my plate. The fear has been gnawing at me since I woke up. Ethan glances up, his expression serious. "You didn't." "Because you have your own things to deal with, and I don't want to—" "Claire," he interrupts gently, using my first name again. It still startles me. "You didn't dump anything on me. I asked. I wanted to know." I study his face, looking for signs of discomfort or resentment, but find none. Just that steady gaze that seems to see right through me. "Okay," I say softly. We eat at the kitchen island, talking about small things. A movie he saw last week. A book I've been trying to read. The conversation is easier than it should be, given the emotional intensity of the night before. There's a new comfort between us, a shared understanding that we've seen each other at a vulnerable moment, and neither has turned away. After breakfast, I insist on washing the dishes, despite his protests. "You cooked," I point out. "It's only fair." He relents, drying each plate as I hand it to him. The simple domesticity of the moment feels both ordinary and precious. "I was thinking," he says as he puts the last plate away. "There's a pile of laundry I brought home. Would you mind if I used the washing machine?" "Of course not," I reply, surprised he would even ask. "It's your house, too." Something flickers across his face at those words, a complex emotion I can't quite read. "Thanks," he says, and disappears upstairs to gather his clothes. The rain continues, drumming against the windows, turning the world outside into a blur of gray and green. It's strangely comforting, this cocoon of water and sound, as if the house exists in its own separate reality. I'm folding a load of my own laundry in the living room when Ethan returns with a duffel bag of clothes. He hesitates in the doorway, as if unsure whether to join me or take his laundry elsewhere. "You can use the table," I say, nodding, toward the coffee table, where I've spread out my folding. There's plenty of room. He settles on the floor across from me, emptying his bag onto the table. T-shirts, jeans, hoodies, the uniform of college students everywhere. We work in companionable silence for a while. The only sounds the soft rustle of fabric and the persistent rain. Remember when I first came to live with you guys? He says suddenly, smoothing a wrinkled shirt. And I wouldn't let anyone touch my clothes? I insisted on doing my own laundry, even though I had no idea what I was doing. The memory makes me smile. 13-year-old Ethan, fiercely independent, determined to need no one. You turned all your white shirts pink the first week. He laughs, a genuine sound that warms something in my chest. Yeah, well, I learned my lesson about sorting. He folds a pair of jeans with practiced efficiency. I think, I was so scared of being dependent, of letting anyone do anything for me, in case they left. I finish quietly. He nods, not looking up from his folding. Yeah, I understand that fear all too well. After my parents' messy divorce when I was 12, I'd built walls of self-sufficiency, convinced that needing people only led to disappointment. It had taken years for Mark to break through those defenses. And then he'd left anyway, proving my childhood self right. It's hard to trust, I say, after you've been hurt. Ethan glances up, his eyes meeting mine. Yeah, it is. There's a weight to his words that suggests he's talking about more than his childhood. Did I tell you that your dad got remarried? I ask. The question surprising even me. I hadn't planned to bring up Mark. Ethan's hands still on the shirt he's folding. Number when? Last month, he sent me an email. I keep my voice deliberately neutral. Her name is Lydia. She's 29. Ethan winces. God, I'm sorry. It's fine, I say automatically, then catch myself. That word again. Fine. The great lie I've been telling myself and everyone else. Actually, it's not fine. It hurt. A lot. Not because I want him back, but because, I don't know, because it felt like further proof that our whole marriage was just some temporary thing for him, something he could replace so easily. Ethan is quiet for a moment, considering. Did he tell you why he left? Really tell you? The question catches me off guard. He said he'd fallen out of love, that we'd grown apart. All the usual cliches. I fold a towel with more force than necessary. I think the truth is, he just wanted something new. Someone who didn't know all his flaws yet. Someone who hadn't seen him fail. He failed you, Ethan says, a hint of anger in his voice. Not the other way around. The fierce protectiveness in his tone brings unexpected tears to my eyes. I blink them away, focusing on the laundry in front of me. Maybe we failed each other, I say softly. Maybe that's just what happens sometimes. Ethan shakes his head. That's not just what happens. That's a choice he made. There's something in his vehemence that makes me wonder. Has your dad been in touch with you? I ask carefully. A shadow crosses his face. Not much. A few texts. He called on my birthday. He shrugs, aiming for casual but missing. He's busy with his new life, I guess. The hurt underneath his words is palpable. Mark hasn't just left me. He's distanced himself from his son as well. A fresh surge of anger rises in me, not for myself this time, but for Ethan. He's missing out, I say, meeting his eyes directly, on knowing the man you're becoming. He looks away, but not before I catch the emotion that flashes across his face. Thanks, he mumbles. We finish folding in silence, but it's a comfortable silence, weighted with shared understanding. When we're done, Ethan helps me carry my stack of clothes upstairs. As we pass his old bedroom, I notice he hasn't gone in yet, hasn't reclaimed the space. Your room's still the same, I say. I haven't changed anything. He glances through the open door at the twin bed with its dark blue comforter, the desk against the wall, the bookshelf filled with sci-fi novels and old textbooks. It feels like a million years ago that I lived here, he says quietly. I understand what he means. The boy who occupied that room seems far removed from the young man standing beside me now. You can change it, I offer. If you wanted to, when you visit. He looks at me, something unreadable in his expression. Maybe I will. Later, after we've put the laundry away, I find him in the living room, looking through the vinyl records that line the bookshelf. It's an eclectic collection, built over years. Some were Mark's, some mine. A few we bought together. I didn't know you had all these, Ethan says, carefully sliding one from its sleeve. I used to listen to them all the time, I reply, settling onto the sofa. Before. He doesn't need me to explain the before the divorce, before the loneliness, before I lost myself. Can we play one? He asks, holding up an album. It's Fleetwood Mac's Rumors, one of my favorites, though I haven't listened to it in months. Sure, I say, surprised by the request. The turntable still works. He sets up the record with careful hands, and soon the opening notes of Secondhand News fill the room. The familiar melody wraps around me like an old friend, bittersweet and comforting. Ethan sits in the armchair across from me, listening intently. My mom loved this album, he says after a while. She used to play it when she was cleaning the house. It's the first time he's voluntarily mentioned his mother since those early days after he came to live with us. Back then, any reference to her had been delivered with a defensive edge, as if daring us to try to replace her. Tell me about her, I say gently. If you want to. He's quiet for so long, I think he won't answer. Then, as Dreams begins to play, he starts to speak, slowly at first, then with growing ease. He tells me about her laugh, her terrible cooking, her love of thunderstorms, how she would sit with him during his nightmares, never dismissing his fears, how she fought her illness with fierce determination right up until the end. I listen, offering nothing but my presence and attention. This gift he's giving me, these memories he's sharing, feels sacred somehow. When the record ends, he gets up to flip it over, and the second side begins. We sit through the entire album, talking between songs about music and memories and loss. By time, Gold Dust Woman plays its final notes. The afternoon has slipped away, the rain still falling steadily outside. Hungry? I ask, as Ethan carefully returns the record to its sleeve. He nods. I could eat. I don't have much in the house, I admit. I haven't been great about grocery shopping lately. We could order in again, he suggests, or I could run out and get something. In this weather? No, let's see what we can find here. I lead the way to the kitchen, opening cupboards and the refrigerator. Between us, we cobble together enough ingredients for a simple pasta dish. Spaghetti, with garlic, olive oil, and the last of a bag of frozen peas. We work side by side at the counter, me chopping garlic while Ethan fills a pot with water for the pasta. There's an ease to our movements now, a rhythm that wasn't there this morning. Can I ask you something? He says, as he sets the pot on the stove. Of course, I reply, focusing on the garlic under my knife. Why didn't you and Mark have kids? Before me, I mean. The question stops me mid-chop. It's not what I expected, and it touches on a wound that never fully healed. I set the knife down carefully. We tried, I say, finally. For years, I had 3 miscarriages before the doctors told us it wasn't likely to happen. I look up at him, wondering if this is too much information, but his face shows only quiet attention. The last one was the worst. I was almost 5 months along. We had started telling people. We had a name picked out. I'm sorry, he says, and I can tell he means it. I didn't know. It's not something we talked about much, I admit. Mark, he dealt with it by moving on, focusing on work, looking forward. I couldn't do that as easily. I resumed chopping, the rhythmic motion soothing. That's why we decided to adopt. It was actually my idea, though Mark got on board pretty quickly. Because you wanted to be a mom, Ethan says, not a question but an understanding. I nod, then look at him directly. But also because we wanted you, specifically. I need you to know that. From the first time we met you at the group home, we both knew. His eyes widen slightly, as if this is news to him. Really? Really? I confirm. You were so serious, so contained. But there was something in your eyes, this fierce intelligence, this determination. I remember thinking, this kid is going to be amazing someday. A flush creeps up his neck, but he doesn't look away. I was a pretty difficult teenager. I laugh softly. Yes, you were. But so was I at your age. So was everyone. Not you, he says, with a certainty that surprises me. You've always been so together, so capable, even now, with everything that's happened. That's just what I let people see, I interrupt gently. The truth is, I've been falling apart for months, maybe years. Last night wasn't a one-time breakdown. It was just the first time I let anyone witness it. He's quiet for a moment, absorbing this. Then, he says, "Thank you for letting me see." Our eyes meet across the kitchen counter, and something passes between us, an acknowledgement of the gift we've each given the other. Permission to be human, to be imperfect, to be seen in our most vulnerable moments. The water begins to boil, breaking the moment. Ethan adds the pasta while I finish preparing the sauce. We move around each other with newfound ease, a dance of small adjustments and anticipated needs. At one point, we both reach for the salt at the same time, our hands brushing. Neither of us pulls away immediately. The brief contact, warm skin, a moment of connection, lingers even after we continue cooking. We eat at the kitchen table, the pasta simple but satisfying. Outside, the rain has finally begun to ease, though the sky remains gray and heavy. How long can you stay? I ask, realizing I don't know his plans. He twirls pasta around his fork, not meeting my eyes. I can head back tomorrow if you need the space. No, I say, perhaps too quickly. I mean, you're welcome to stay as long as you want. I just didn't know what you had planned. He shrugs. Nothing urgent. Classes don't start again until Tuesday. He hesitates, then adds, I switched my major, by the way, to English Lit. Really? I can't hide my surprise. He's always been firmly on the science track, determined to become a doctor. Yeah. After I dropped pre-med, I had to figure out what I actually wanted to do. He sets his fork down. I took this American literature class last semester as an elective, and it was the only thing that felt, I don't know, right, like I could breathe in that classroom. I think of the bookshelves in his room upstairs, lined with novels he devoured as a child. How had we missed this part of him? How had we been so focused on the future doctor that we overlooked the reader, the thinker? I think that's wonderful, I say sincerely. You always love to read. His expression lightens, as if a weight has been lifted. Yeah, I did. I'd forgotten that somehow. He takes a sip of water. I was worried about telling you. And Dad. Why? Because it feels like failing, like giving up. I shake my head firmly. It's not failing to choose a different path. It's brave. How many people spend their whole lives doing something they don't love because they're afraid to change course? The words are meant for him, but they resonate within me as well. How long have I been going through the motions, living a life that no longer fits? How much courage would it take to imagine something different? After dinner, we clean up together, the routine already feeling familiar. The rain has stopped entirely now, leaving behind a washed-out twilight. Without discussing it, we both drift toward the back porch, where two Adirondack chairs face the small yard. The air is cool and damp, heavy with the scent of wet earth and grass. We sit in companionable silence for a while, watching the day fade into evening. The neighbor's cat prowls along the fence line, pausing occasionally to shake water from its paws. I'm sorry if I made things harder for you, Ethan says suddenly, his voice quiet in the gathering darkness. When I was younger, after I came to live with you. I turn to look at him, surprised by the apology. You didn't make things harder. I was angry all the time, he says. I pushed you away. Both of you, but especially you. You were grieving, I say gently. You'd lost your mother. Your whole world had changed. Of course you were angry. He stares out at the yard, his profile sharp, against the darkening sky. I think I was afraid to let myself care about you. Like if I did, it would mean I was forgetting her somehow. The honesty of his confession touches something deep within me. I never wanted to replace her, I say. I just wanted to be there for you, in whatever way you needed. I know that now, he says. I didn't then. He pauses, then adds, you were patient. More patient than Dad, sometimes. The mention of Mark brings a familiar ache, but it's duller now, less raw. Your dad always wanted to fix things, I say. Solve problems, move forward. It made him a good businessman, but sometimes a difficult father. And husband. Ethan nods slowly. He never knew what to do with feelings, with weakness. That's not weakness, I say firmly. Feeling things, being hurt, being human. That's not weakness, Ethan. He turns to look at me, his expression thoughtful, in the fading light. You were the first person who didn't ask me to be strong, he says quietly. Did you know that? After Mom died, everyone kept telling me I had to be strong. For her, for myself, for whatever reason. Everyone except you. You just let me be whatever I was on any given day. I hadn't known. Hadn't realized that this small mercy, this permission to simply feel what he felt, had registered so deeply with him. Everyone deserves that kind of grace, I say. Not everyone gives it, he counters. We fall silent again, listening to the drip of water from the gutters, the distant sound of a car passing on the wet street. The temperature is dropping as night falls, but neither of us moves to go inside. I've been thinking about selling the house, I say finally, giving voice to a thought that's been growing for weeks. It's too big for just me, and there are too many memories. Ethan doesn't respond immediately. When he does, his voice is careful. Where would you go? I don't know. Somewhere smaller, maybe closer to the city. I wrap my arms around myself against the chill. I've been looking at teaching positions at the community college, using my literature degree for once instead of just my speech pathology certification. You should, he says, with unexpected conviction. You'd be a great teacher. The simple vote of confidence warms me more than it should. Thank you. Would you start writing again, if you moved? The question catches me off guard. I'd mentioned my poetry so briefly last night, I'm surprised he remembered. Maybe, I say. I don't know if I remember how. I bet it's like riding a bike, he says. It comes back. I smile at the optimism in his voice. Maybe you're right. A comfortable silence settles between us again. The darkness is nearly complete now, the yard visible only as shapes and shadows. I should suggest we go inside, where it's warm, but I'm reluctant to break this moment of peace. I have a confession, Ethan says, his voice barely above a whisper in the dark. About why I came home this weekend. I wait, giving him space to continue. I had a panic attack in the library on Thursday. A bad one. I thought I was having a heart attack. His words come slowly, as if each one costs him effort. When it was over, I needed to be somewhere that felt safe, so I came here. The admission pierces me. Despite everything, the divorce, my breakdown, the emptiness of the past months, this house, this place, still represents safety to him. I'm glad you did, I say softly. I didn't expect to find you like that, he continues. When I walked in and saw you crying, he pauses, searching for words. It should have made things worse, seeing you upset. But instead, it was like I could finally breathe, like I wasn't the only one struggling to keep it together. I understand exactly what he means. There's relief in knowing you're not alone in your pain, not alone in your imperfection. I stayed, he says, his voice dropping even lower, not just to comfort you. I stayed because I didn't want to leave you, because ... He takes a deep breath, because I feel safe with you. The words land like stones in still water, sending ripples through me. All at once, I understand what's been happening between us these past 24 hours. Not just two people sharing grief or loneliness, but two souls recognizing each other, seeing past the roles we've played, stepmother and stepson, to the human beings underneath, both wounded, both healing, both seeking connection. Tears fill my eyes, but they're different from the ones I shed last night. These aren't born of despair or isolation, but of something else entirely: relief, gratitude, a fragile hope I'd thought was lost to me. I feel safe with you too, I whisper. In the darkness, I feel, rather than see him reach across the space between our chairs. His hand finds mine, and I turn my palm up to meet his. Our fingers intertwine, a simple touch that anchors us both in this moment, in this understanding. We sit like that for a long time, connected in the dark, while the world drips and settles around us. Neither of us speaks again. There will be time for words tomorrow, and the day after, and all the days that follow. Time to figure out what this new relationship between us means, how it will evolve. Time to heal, to grow, to become whatever we're meant to be. For now, it's enough to know that we're not alone, that we've been seen, truly seen, and not found wanting. That there is still room in this world for connection, for understanding, for the quiet miracle of being known. The night air wraps around us like a blanket. Somewhere in the distance, a new storm is gathering. But it doesn't frighten me. Whatever comes, we will weather it together.